Oh, hello, board game geeks. I'm Brian Hazard, and this is Game Spasm. Welcome. Hey, ever gone to Board Game Geek and seen a game that had a page but had no content on that page whatsoever? This is the first time that happened to me. I bought this game at Gen Con Sunday at 4 o'clock, last minute, just wanted to grab something out of the vendor hall, and it is the Master of Orion Conquest two-player deck building game from Catalyst Games, licensed by wargaming.net. So whenever I get a new game, I like to go onto Board Game Geek and mark it as being a part of my collection. I went onto Board Game Geek, I marked it as part of my collection, I looked at the page, there's nothing there. There's no forum posts, no pictures, no files, nothing, which is uncommon. And that made me wonder why. Anyways, I was worried that I maybe bought a bad game. The good news is, I didn't buy a bad game. I bought a mediocre game, which is, fun to play. But I will go over the elements of the game and let you know what I think of it. There are some issues with it, and we'll go over what those are. But first, let's look at how you play the game. All right, folks, this is the basic setup for Orion, Master of Orion Conquest. Actually, it's the only setup. Each player starts with identical decks of 10 cards, starting cards. They have a little star in the left corner, and a home planet with a population value. If your population value of your home planet is reduced to 0, you lose. All planets can be upgraded if you pay their cost during your turn, and when you flip them over, they usually have more population and a little more production. In this game, production is what allows you to buy ships out of the trade row, and the ships in the trade row will have a cost listed and an attack value underneath. The cost is what you need to pay in production to get them. An interesting aspect of this game is that you can actually pay a little bit towards a ship, put a chit on it, and if you can't afford it this turn, you can finish paying it off the next turn. Each player has their own starting deck of 10 cards, like I said. They're identical. Let's put these out so we can see what they look like. Presto! Yeah, you gotta love the shiny card sleeves. So space factories are the cards that allow you to get your production cost. Think of them like coins and star realms. You have 3 of them in your starting hand, and you're probably going to keep them in your deck for the entire game because they also allow you to heal damage off of your home planet. A scout is a ship that allows you to explore. Whenever you play a scout on your turn, you take the top card off the exploration deck and you put it into the exploration row. They call it rotating a card. That's not a great term. Each planet will provide you with, they have a cost, a production value, and a population. If population is ever reduced to 0, then that planet blows up. You can have up to 2 planets in addition to your home base, to your home planet. You put them in front of the home planet to represent that they must be blowed up, before they're allowed to blow up your home planet. Each time you use a scout to rotate a card into the exploration row, you may then put 1 exploration token on it. Every exploration token you place on it will reduce the cost of that planet for you if you wanted to buy it. You cannot reduce that cost to 0. So with a cost of 4, I can go over here with my scout. I put this here, and now that planet would only cost me 3. If I had enough production points during my turn because of my space factories, I could spend that 3 production points, and I could put this planet here in front of my home planet, and it would be an extra line of defense. You can also place exploration tokens on other planets that are in the row. Just because I put this card out doesn't mean I have to put my token on it. I could put this one out and then still put a token over here. And you'll notice 1, 3, that's a little weird. Anytime an event or a hazard comes up on the top of the deck, it must be resolved immediately. It usually attacks the planet who has the most cost value of planets in front of them. That's sort of a bit of an equalizer. If you defeat whatever on the front side, you can see what happens on the back side. Sometimes there's a monster, and when you kill it, you flip it over, it's a planet that you can have. So that's a scout. You only have 2 scouts in your entire deck, and again, you may decide to never get rid of them because you need them to explore planets. Star bases, any type of base is placed on top of a planet and becomes a part of that planet for the sake of the population cost, which means that I go from having a home planet that's worth 15 to a home planet that's worth 19, so it takes that much more damage to blow it up. Damage has to go to bases first. If the base gets blown up, it just gets discarded into your deck. If you have damage that ignores bases and goes right to the planet, if the planet's blown up, it doesn't matter if the base is okay because it's orbiting nothing, it goes away. Your colony ship, you have 1 in each deck, and that allows you to just take a card from the exploration row early on in the game. This is a great way to get the game started and get you a little extra, get you an extra planet. Arguably, you could have just skipped this card altogether and had the players be given one random planet at the beginning of the game, and then you would have had one less thing in your deck sort of slowing you down. The cards that deal damage look like this. This is a frigate. You have 2 in your starting deck and a destroyer. There are different classes of ships, and the more classes of ships you play out of your hand in one turn, the more command points you get. This sounds fiddly, but you get used to it very quickly. Command points can be spent in order to get different abilities during your turn. So if you play a frigate and a destroyer, you get 1 command point. If you play a cruiser, a frigate, and a destroyer, you would get 2 command points, and then it escalates from there. You can use command points to buy ships out of the trade row, to attack with your fleets, or to recycle planets or hazards from the exploration row over there to get things out of your way. After you've done all your spending for the turn, you do have to do scouts first, so first you scout always. Then you can play ships, and you can use those ships' abilities. You can do things like scrap an Empire row card. That would allow you to take one of the cards out of your row and get rid of it and draw a new one. There might be an ability that says you can scrap an enemy's Empire row card. That's good too. Once you've done all your buying, you're going to want to attack. And you have a couple of different targets you can use for attack. Your first target option is the other player's trade row. So this is an interesting thing that I haven't seen in a deck builder before. Each person has their own trade row, and we like to think of it as like ships coming in and strafing the row and blowing them up. For every attack point you spend, you get 2 attack value against the ships in the trade row because they're defenseless and they're just sitting on the ground. So for 1 attack point, I can do 2 damage, and you just look at the cost of the ships to see how much it takes to destroy them. So this Phasor battleship has a cost of 4. So for an attack of 2, I could blow this ship up and prevent him from getting it. So instead of buying cards to prevent your opponent from getting them, you just blowed them up. Like I mentioned earlier, that's a word. You cannot blow up technology cards, and this makes sense in our idea that you're strafing things because technology isn't left on a runway somewhere or on a factory conveyor belt. You would only be able to get rid of these if you had something that said you could scrap the card. So if he had a technology, I couldn't strafe it with my attack points. I would have to have a card that scrapped it, and I would say those are spies going in and destroying the technology or stealing it or whatever. Then you can decide to attack your opponent's home planet. If he's got nothing in front of it, that's fine. You just attack the population value of the planet, and you throw some chits on it to show that the value of the planet is being reduced, and if you ever have chits equal to the population, it blows up. If there's a station in front of the planet, then you have to deal with that also. If there are other planets in front of the home planet, then you have to deal with them first too. But here's how that works. Damage is chunky, and it is used by assigning fleets. So if I had these 3 ships to attack with, unlike Star Realms where you just assign damage somewhere, it's so shiny, it's ridiculous, you would decide which fleets to put these in. So maybe I put these into a fleet and I put this into a different fleet. That's important because there's certain cards that have what they refer to as fleet bonuses. So this fleet bonus says that if this card is in a fleet with a Titan, you can automatically destroy 1 enemy base. And a Titan is just another type of card. Here you go, actually. That's a Titan. I'm showing you cards from the other team because other than the art, all the cards are the same. The ships are all the same in both decks. So that's kind of lame, but it is what it is. So if that ship was in the same fleet, so you assign them both to attack the same target, you would get a bonus. There's also formation bonuses, and I think this is confusing, could be confusing to some people. A formation bonus gives you a bonus if you happen, I don't even have one to show you, but the icon looks like this. And if you get a formation bonus, it's sort of like the ally bonus in Star Realms. So if a ship has a formation bonus and that ship says frigate, draw an additional card. If you happen to play a frigate that turn, you would get to draw an additional card as long as you played them both. They don't have to be in the same fleet. They just have to be played out of your hand on the same turn to get a formation bonus. The fleet bonus happens if you assign them. So you pick ships, you put them into fleets, and then you pick a target to assign them to. In this case, I would just assign it to his home planet. If he had planets in front of his home planet, I would have to assign to them first. Now, if I'm able to assign enough damage with 1 fleet to 1 planet, let's say I had this here, these 2 ships, and I said I'm going to attack his population of 5. These have an attack of 6. So since I have enough to destroy that planet, if I have other ships remaining in my hand and I want to assign them to the home planet, I'm now able to do that. So I don't have to blow the other planets up, I just have to be able to assign enough damage to blow them up before I can assign damage to the home base. Interestingly enough, there's a mechanic in this game where a player can scrap cards from their hand to reduce the amount of damage that's happening to their planets. This is called defense. So effectively, those ships are being destroyed defending the home planet. But every a point of attack that ship has, let's say I played this, this frigate. I scrapped this out of my hand for an attack of 1. If he was attacking this Praxis for an attack of 6, that would bring it down to 5. It would still blow up. So maybe I would also use this frigate. I would scrap these 2 frigates, bring the attack down to 4. Praxis would take 4 damage, but it wouldn't be gone. So that's a way of stopping them. It's also a good way of getting cards out of your hand. And it adds a little strategic depth and interest. One thing that Bridge pointed out when we were playing is that when you get command points and you're allowed to add them as attack value to a fleet, it says anytime during your turn, which means you can attack a planet with a fleet, and then after they've assigned defense, maybe, you could then use command points to put it over the top and still blow up the planet. We don't know if that's true because the rulebook doesn't address it, and there is nothing on Board Game Geek, no forums that I know of for this game at all. Every planet can have 1 space station on it, and every planet can also have 1 tech card on it. When you buy a tech card, you put it on a planet. The rulebook says that unless otherwise suggested, they go off when you put them there, but we just don't know. On some of them are a little bbit confusing as when they actually go off, and the rulebook almost doesn't mention them at all. That's really the gist of playing the game. It plays in about 45 minutes. I've played 3 times now, twice with Alan, once with Bridge, and I found that to be mostly true. So let's move on, folks. Nothing more here to see. So we got some gameplay out of the way. Let's talk about the issues that I have with the game. First issue with the game is that the theme is completely useless. The theme is pasted on. The game has little or nothing to do with Master of Orion. The decks are not different, with the exception of a couple of tech cards and a homeworld ability. There are no difference between the decks. You have the exact same number and type of ships within each deck. And those could have been any races. You could have been any theme at all. It could have been no theme. It could have just been spaceships. It wouldn't have sold any. But, yeah. The other issue is that the production value is low. This looks pretty. That's a good-looking cover. But the ships themselves and the cards are very, very boring. They put little bars underneath the attack and cost to represent life bars like a video game. Totally useless, unnecessary, doesn't provide any additional information. Not all ships are ships. A ship has to have a ship icon to be a ship. If it's a colony ship, that's not a ship. If it's a scout, that's not a ship. Maybe call it a combat ship. I don't know. That's a little weird. So the art is not great. The theme is not great. The planets didn't need to be hexes, and while that's kind of a neat thing to do, they're already showing where, because it's easy to fox the corners and accidentally ding them up, and I can't sleeve them. I did sleeve the game right away because it seemed like it was going to take a beating pretty fast. It doesn't look like it's made, it doesn't look or feel like it's made of real sturdy stuff. The tokens that you use throughout the game, strangely, if you have chits in a game with number values on them, very often you'll have a 1 and a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These chits are all over the place, and while that may seem like a nitpick, it's kind of a pain in the butt in the game when you go, I need a 2, I grab a 1, and I flip it over, and it is a 5 on the other side. It seems like there's no rhyme or reason to which numbers are on the sides of the chits, and it's just a little niggling thing that comes up during the game. There are issues with the tech cards. It is unclear how to play them particularly well. The book only mentions tech cards at the beginning right here, and then if they are mentioned at all again, it is only in passing to let you know you can't strafe them in the Empire row. They don't really tell you anything else about it. So some of the powers and when they can go off are not clear. What I like about the game, I actually enjoy playing the game quite a bit. Bridge beat the pants off of me. He had a great discard thing going where he was making me discard like crazy. The ships play well with each other. If you're able to buy the right ships and get the command points from having different ship classes during your turn, you can do really well. Bridge was sending fleets off to me. He was doing good. I like the idea of having planets and those being targets instead of just bases, or in Star Realms you just have generic life points. I like that this doesn't have generic life points. There are cards that are in your starting hand that never go out of style. They can be useful throughout the entire game, especially the space factories. that can be seen as a good and a bad. And the engine gives you a number of ways to scrap cards. So you can scrap them with planet abilities, frigate abilities, and also you can scrap them in defense of your home base or your home planets, and that's another way to get them out of your hand. So I enjoyed it. I liked playing it. It is unlikely that I would pick this over Star Realms, and Mike had his take on it too. Actually, I'm going to have Mr. Mike Bridge here tell you what he thinks about the game a little bit. It might be a bit redundant from what I've said, but let's give him a second. Mike, take it away. Mr. Bridge, Masters of Orion Conquest, first play. What do you think?
The themes pasted on, the iconography is a little excessive at times, but other than that, it's a solid two-player. It says 30 to 45 minutes, so it took us about that long.
Yeah. So, how would you compare it against? I think it's inevitably going to be compared against Star Realms because it's a two-player deck builder where you punch each other in space. Comparison there.
A little bit more depth than Star Realms, but if I had the choice between this and Star Realms, I think I'd choose Star Realms because you could probably knock out 2 or 3 games of Star Realms in the same time as this, and it only takes up about half the table space. This
particular game, you made me discard at one point I discarded my entire hand, which was awesome. I mean, it was awesome, so that was good. Would you play the game again?
Yes, but I wouldn't ask to play it.
Okay, so wouldn't ask for it, but would play it if requested. So that's your take on Master of Orion Conquest. I might keep some or even all of that in under your own voice.
No, the shtick is you always dub over me.
That's not true. Asterisk. Read right here. That's right. Okay. I would never do that to you. I value your opinion. Okay, bye. And there you have it, straight from the Bridge's mouth. We are of like minds on this game, and we are of the mind that it is mediocre. The theme is not worth anything. The art is not good. The production quality is so-so. The hex tiles don't need to be in here. They could have been square. That would have been fine. And the rules are inconsistent. That said, we had a good time playing. There was a lot of laughter as Bridge was murdering my people and claiming victory over my corpses. He laughed more than I did. But we enjoyed the time that we played it. The problem is there's a lot of really good games in the world right now, and it is hard to justify playing a game like... Come on. Look at this. I haven't played enough Talon. I still want to try Imperium. I miss Alien Frontiers. I've played Rebellion twice. I want to play that more. I'm working on a campaign in Near and Far. I just got Stop Thief. I got a new expansion for Valeria Card Kingdoms. There's new stuff for Mystic Vale. We've got the XCOM expansion we haven't had a chance to try yet. I've probably only played half of the characters in Darkest Night. This thing is wacky. I don't even want to get into that. Anachrony is amazing. I just got Tricurion at Gen Con. I need to try that. So I say all that there to say if I have all of those incredible games to play, and some of them are playable in the same amount of time as this, why would I play this? So I give it a 6 out of 10. Thanks for watching. This is the... should I yell first? First! Content for Master of Orion Conquest on Board Game Geek. If you have any comments, questions, please put them below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys on the Geek. Take it easy.